Hi everyone, real quick one here today. We just didn't move that much. You can see we went to the lows from Friday and pretty much finished right at that price. Did try to go a little higher, couldn't hit the key levels, and then we sold dramatically, cut through here, went straight to the next one. Everything here looks pretty terrible and continues to look pretty terrible. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So it looks like the tariffs are coming. The tariffs are coming. We were hoping for a last minute deal and it did not come through. So we're going to have 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada starting tomorrow, plus an additional 10% for China. We already talked about that, but markets hate it. Markets are down on that news. It seems like this is going into full effect tomorrow. There's no more room left for Mexico and Canada to negotiate an alternative to these tariffs. They're all set to go into effect tomorrow. Markets plunged. If we didn't get this news today, and if we did get a little bit of a reversal, I thought we'd go a little bit higher and maybe hold, even get a stronger push. But all of that went away. Everything got crushed, and now markets are going to continue to sell on this news, in my opinion. There will also be retaliatory tariffs coming from Canada. We'll see if any of those come from Mexico as well. So just exacerbating the problem for everyone. Moving over to fear and greed, we're at a 24 from a 19. Somehow we actually improved on the day. That sounds fake, but you can see extreme fear here below the SMA looks terrible. Strength, extreme fear, breadth, extreme fear, put call ratio, extreme fear, terrible. That got up to an 8.1. Volatility, extreme fear, we expected that. Safe haven demand in extreme fear. And junk bonds, huge spike down. We'll see if that's real on J&K later, but just about every single metric is in extreme fear, and that is a bad omen, especially since we are at all-time highs or just off of all-time highs. Now we're into a big sell down. Looking at the economic calendar, pretty much everything was close to or in line with expectations. Global manufacturing PMI, good number there. Eurozone CPI, a little bit hotter than expectations, not what you would have wanted to see there. And then ISM manufacturing PMI, a little bit lower than expectations, but it's still above the 50 line. Manufacturing prices being really, really high there, way higher than expectations, not what I would have wanted to see there. And then Atlanta Fed GDP seems to keep getting worse. So not good on that either as we get closer to the unemployment data. Do get a preliminary look for the Wednesday at the ADP non-farm change. That'll be interesting. Also get some more S&P Global Services PMI. Really nothing here for the Tuesday, but Wednesday just a little bit more data as we get closer to unemployment data. Moving over to the charts, looking at the S&Ps, we did get a touch of the 144. That's what we were looking for to the downside. It came up just short of my level, 579.78. The low was just off of there at 579.90. Wouldn't bother me if you called that a touch. Within just a couple of pennies there, about 10 cents or so. I thought we were going to go up into the trend line here, maybe the 21 EMA a little bit higher, around 601.50 off of this really strong Friday candle, but the tariff news crushed that. We had a step towards bullish momentum on the daily momentum. That's what I was looking for, a little bit more movement. 599 I thought was in play as well, but tariff news, terrible there. Ended up down 1.75. Hit that 144, the level there, 579, like I mentioned. If that breaks, 574.71 is in play. That takes you just past the lows of 13 January. Structurally, this still looks terrible. Left shoulder head. Are we going to get that right shoulder, or is it just going to cut through here to that 200 at 658.45? We'll see. And then looking at the hourly here, you can see tried to go higher. We were looking for this zone in here. This is what I was looking for. The trend, the 200, 601.50 in this zone. Looking for the touch. We came up short. Started to sell. We held the level here for a little bit, 591. And then once we cut through that at the 12 o'clock, we just continued to waterfall off almost to the level. Now you can see we're selling just a little bit more after hours after retesting 585.91. So everything looks terrible. Huge selling volume. Moving over to the Tasty charts here just for a moment, I want to highlight that lowest ATR band that was at 579.13. Again, coming up just short of that level. Hit the 144 on this indicator as well. So we'll see if it can continue lower. And then throwing up the hourly chart, you can see we're back into bearish conditions. We did flip it on the Friday, but we're back to bearish now. Lowest ATR band sitting there at 582.42. We'll see if we get a little bit of support there again tomorrow. We touched it today, caught a little bit of a bounce, but I wouldn't expect that. I think we're going to continue to sell off once we get the official word that those tariffs are in place tomorrow. Moving over to the NASDAQ, similar thesis but worse, down 2.19%. Closed below the 144, didn't just test it, we closed below it. We did touch the trend, found a little bit of a bounce off the trend here, missed it just barely on the hourly, touched it here on the daily. Got the 200 there, sitting at 490.98. We did close below 500 for the first time in seemingly forever. We got very, very close on the Thursday, bounced from that level. Now we closed below it, so big psychological level getting taken out there. Right at the level, 498.44, that's where we're at after hours for your resistance. We're so close to the 200, you have to assume that we're going to get a touch there at 490.98. That's what I'm looking for in tomorrow's session at a minimum. Want to see that 200 SMA get touched. Then we'll see what happens after that. Is it going to sell through there, and then we're going to get a true bearish condition? On the longer time frames for the Qs, getting it closed below the 200 SMA is not something we have seen in a very, very long time here. The last time we were below it, you can see we broke through January of 23, retested it in March of 23, and here we are now in March of 25 looking to see if we are going to break below that structure. You have to assume we're going to at this point. You do have a lower low off of this arguable double top. Structurally does not look good in my opinion. And then looking at that hourly chart, looks like we're pushing just barely above the level now in the after hours. Not really expecting that to hold on the tariff news, but that's what we're looking for. Your next level, 492, and then below that you got 486.84, just below that 200 SMA on the daily. Moving over to the Tasty charts, pretty much the same thesis there. You can see bearish conditions. We got the flip back to bearish there, pretty much on the first candle, 8 o'clock candle, flip back to bearish, retested some levels, immediately sold off. Probably should have been watching this chart a little bit closer. Really, it's looked pretty terrible for the past couple of days. Obviously, markets have been quite bearish, and now we're below this previous consolidation on a closing basis, so you should expect it to go lower, even though we're already a little bit extended. You do have the catalyst of tariffs potentially driving us through those lows. And same thesis here on the daily chart. We're riding that lowest ATR band to the downside, but it's not uncommon to see that when you have such a strong bearish catalyst. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, these continue to look just as terrible as everything else. The Russell was down 2.73%, continuing to sell off, super aggressive. The Russell has been the worst, and it continues to be the worst. We did get to that 208.22 level. We'll see if that holds. I'm sure that it won't. The next real level for me would be the trend around the 270 cents in here. We're already oversold in bearish territory. We'll see how it goes. Well below all the EMAs and SMAs, continues to sell super aggressive. And then looking at the Dow did close back below 432.78 with the big down move. 1.43% back into bearish conditions, almost retested the SMA, continuing lower on big volume. Did go slightly higher for a moment and then gave it all back, continuing that selling price action. So again, everything looks bad. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft, no surprises here. These sold off pretty aggressive as well. You can see that huge rejection candle on Friday, gave almost all of that back, down 1.58%. Didn't close below the level though, so support is now 237.23. We'll see if that ends up holding. Otherwise, 230 is in play. You can see once it broke on Friday, we went right to that level and then bounced right back to this level. So all of these levels continue to be important. We'll see if this one finds support or not. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. And then Microsoft just continuing this selling action. The support on Friday was 388.03. Testing that level again today. We'll see if it holds. Otherwise, your next support is really down here at the trend, 373.85 in my opinion. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA, both of these sold 2.84 and 8.69% today on NVIDIA. Tesla got an upgrade on AI and the robotics play, but the 200 is still holding in there as well at 279.33. Despite the sell-off, despite the upgrade, continues to chop at the same level. We'll see if it can continue to hold that 200. If it does, I could absolutely see why you might be buying there. Once it breaks though, potentially looking for that next level around here, 232.57. You do have a zone in here as well, 255 to 264. Realistically, I would be looking for this gap fill that we left long ago in October of 24. We'll see if that gets filled. You also have the gap to here as well, 5 November candle to that 255 area. And then looking at NVIDIA, there was news about them selling chips to people they shouldn't have been selling chips to, so that was not good for them. Big sells on that. Came right back to the trend. This was the initial price target that we were looking for. If this level broke, obviously it didn't happen on the Friday, happened here today, touched the trend. So your next level below that, if it breaks, 106.64. If that support holds, then you could look for a push back to 116. If that breaks, however, there's a lot of downside potential. The next level for me would be 95.74. So see how it plays out. Right now looks terrible. Everything looks pretty bearish across the board. Moving over to staples and discretionaries, continue to see the risk off play continuing to play out. Huge volume coming through on staples, continues to look very, very strong. Want to see it go to 84.50 or potentially to all-time highs, get some price discovery there. That would be interesting. Discretionaries, big sell. Look at that volume, huge selling volume. 210.43 was the level. We got a touch from there. See if it holds. The 144 is in there as well at 209.50. If those break, your 200 is there at 201.87. So a very, very important zone. At this point, you have to expect it to go through. Everything has been pretty rough. Moving over to breadth. Breadth continues to hover pretty much unchanged. The 20-day is in the same zone that it's been in. Momentum stepping back to bearish. RSI back to bearish. Same on 50-day. Same region we've been in, but it is right at the lows of that region. Got an outside candle where you tested resistance and then sold some more. Momentum bearish, RSI still bearish. We'll see if it continues to sell tomorrow. If it does, that would be a break of structure. So that would be quite a bearish potential there. So watching this one right at these consolidation lows really for both of these. Moving over to the dollar continued to sell here, which is really a resumption of this kind of medium term trend. Mid-January to current, we've been seeing this sell off. We did have a 3-day push right to the trend here on the 21, pushed back below it. We'll see if it takes out this low here. Now you have a high, lower high, lower high, lower high. See if it can continue to go to lower lows. 105.5 is your next level. Now that 106.84 broke. So that's what we're looking for. Is it going to go to here? Waiting to see. Moving over to bonds, J&K actually sold off a little bit, about 0.75%, pretty substantial sell-off. Big gap and sell, interesting. TLT on the other hand, positive day, 14 cents. Did we touch the 200 at 92.74? High of day was 92.57. So high of day was 92.71. So we missed it by a couple of pennies. I would call it a touch. We'll see if we get into that zone. We'll see if we break through the zone or not. This was our initial target once we got the break here at 89.16. We'll see if it can go a little bit more. It's been a run, right? We've came from the 84 area to the 92 area. It's a pretty good move here for TLT. Are we going to retrace a little bit? It's definitely a little extended, but this seems to be moving with the plays around tariffs and the current economic environment. Bonds continue to be a good place to be, in my opinion. Moving over to J&K, we said we were headed for the trend, and we did get very, very close to it. The high of day was 24.31. We'll see if we get there. The trend for tomorrow is around 25.14. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish, expecting this to spike at least one more time. We'll see if it can get all the way to the 28.89 area. That would be interesting. It's been a little while since we've been that high. You can see back here, 18 December was a big spike. I think we can get at least to that level. So far, the VIX continues to look pretty bullish, and I do think it'll go. Moving over to my accounts, I traded super poorly, which is upsetting. I was looking for that little bit more on the push, a couple of dollars more to those resistance levels that we were talking about. Came up short, and then I missed the sell-off. I was busy at work, and I missed the alerts, and then I was too late. The drop was already in, and then that was not good positions. Terrible. Took off the shares. Still holding some calls here at 504. There's a little bit more downside in my opinion, so we got these here for 222 for 2 days from now at 504. Still plenty of room to the upside, and you can see after hours we did bounce a little bit, but we seem to be drifting a little bit lower now towards the end of the after hours session. Typically, I don't like to be bearish into the close, but I think it's pretty safe to say that we're going to go lower tomorrow on the back of all of this news and what we're seeing in the markets. So everything looks bearish. Wish I traded better. I just didn't. And then for the IWM position, I took that off early in the session, made a small amount of dollars there, and I didn't put anything back on in that account. So that account did fine. Obviously, my main account doing less fine. Let me know down in the comments section what you thought of the markets here today. Do you think we're going to continue to break through these lower lows? What do you think of the change in structure we saw across markets today? And will the tariffs sink markets, or will they eventually bolster them in the longer term? Let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.